Last night, the Red Sox playoff picture changed a bit, and things are starting to get a little bit wonky. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin. Thank you very much for clicking on this video. Just a heads up before we get into the video, though, we are going to be live right here on this channel tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be watching Garrett Crochet take on the Toronto Blue Jays. This is an unbelievably massive game, so I hope you guys are all there watching that with me. Again, that's going to be tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. But before we get to tonight's game, we got to talk about last night's game, because first and foremost, what an absolutely unbelievably massive win that was for the Boston Red Sox. It genuinely felt like for most of this game, the Red Sox were losing, right? They were tied or they were ahead by one for a majority of it, but it really did feel like between the errors, between Giolito struggling, the Red Sox were probably going to end up losing that game, but it didn't end up happening. The bullpen comes in, they says, "Hey, Gio, we got you, buddy." Between Wilson, Whitlock, Slayton, and Chapman, just unbelievable performance from those guys. And the offense said, "Hey, the top of our order, not really doing a ton. We're going to figure it out at the bottom of this order," right? Big hits from guys in big situations, and all of a sudden the Red Sox come away with a win. And right now, every single win is going to feel unbelievably massive. This win in particular did a ton to where they are in the standings, because outside of the Boston Red Sox winning last night's game, Cleveland Guardians beat Skubal and the Tigers. Just 2 weeks ago, they were 76-71 with a 7.6% chance of making the playoffs. Now they're up to 80%, and they have officially, for now, taken over the lead in the AL Central. Not only are the Guardians a team of destiny, not only did the Tigers have a historic collapse in the month of September, but because of this, playoff picture just a little bit has changed for the Boston Red Sox, and it's for a couple of different reasons. The first thing this does is it absolutely impacts the Red Sox standings the rest of the way. On the surface, the Red Sox position hasn't really changed all that much. The Red Sox winning, the Guardians winning, and the Detroit Tigers losing effectively puts the Red Sox in the same position. Second wild card spot, a game up of whoever's in third place. But now we got to talk about not just the Cleveland Guardians fighting for a wild card spot, but we also have to talk about the Detroit Tigers fighting for a wild card spot, and that's a bit of an interesting twist in the Red Sox final games, because who do they end their season playing? The Detroit Tigers. So now all of a sudden, a month ago, we were looking at this schedule and we were saying, hey, wait a second here. You're playing the Blue Jays, you're playing the Detroit Tigers to finish this one out. The Blue Jays is going to be a big series regardless of where they were in the standings, but the Detroit Tigers, there was a chance that a month ago, you were looking at this saying they could have wrapped up the division by then, which would have meant, hey, some of these guys, their regular starters may be sitting in certain spots. They may not go to a guy like Tariq Skubal in this series. You may end up actually not cakewalking your way into the finale of this season, but have your path just a little bit easier. That's no longer the case, right? All of a sudden, this series becomes just as important as the series that you're just playing, because even if the Detroit Tigers end up just beating down on the Cleveland Guardians in these next two games of the series and they take a one-game lead in the division, they're not going to be taking this series lightly. Right, because now, at the bare minimum, they're going to be fighting for the chance to defend the Cleveland Guardians and still win the division. Worst case scenario here is that the Cleveland Guardians continue to fight the Detroit Tigers, and all of a sudden, this series becomes the difference between the Red Sox in the second wildcard spot and the Red Sox in the third wildcard spot. And right now, that's a pretty big difference, because that's the difference between going to the Bronx and playing New York, or going and facing the Cleveland Guardians at home in Cleveland against a team who feels like a team of destiny, who made a deal with the devil. So you look at this and you're like, oh my God, this series ended up being almost as important as this Blue Jays series. I mean, every game in the last, week of the season is going to be incredibly important, but you were sitting there a month ago saying there was the potential for a little bit of a cakewalk here. That is no longer the case. Things became much more difficult for the Red Sox very, very quickly here, which makes a lot of sense because the Boston Red Sox haven't had a single thing go easy for them yet this season, right? And if that isn't just cinematic, if that isn't baseball gods at work, I don't know what is. But it's not the only reason this is a really important change to the Red Sox standings. However, before we get to that, a quick word from today's sponsor. The weather is getting colder, the leaves are starting to change here, and for baseball fans, that means stressful games are coming, right? But for sports fans in general, it's a fantastic time of year. The football season is back, and the next great touchdown is coming. Now you can bet on it. That's why for the entire month of September, we are partnering with the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now on DraftKings, new users bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets on top of getting $200 off YouTube and YouTube TV's Sunday NFL ticket. That is one heck of an offer, and to take advantage of this offer, go head over to DraftKings.com/RedSeat or use code RedSeat to sign up today. With their user-friendly app, you can take your Sundays to the next level. Thank you very much to DraftKings for sponsoring this episode. Please don't forget to gamble responsibly. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Let's get back to the video. The second reason the Detroit Tigers entering the wild card picture and changes things for the Boston Red Sox a pretty decent amount is because the Red Sox don't have the tiebreaker against the Detroit Tigers. It felt a little bit false confidence, I would say is the right word for this, that the Red Sox, at the bare minimum, if they tied with the Houston Astros, they would either still make the postseason or they would still get the higher seed, and same goes for the Cleveland Guardians. Now, things get a little bit interesting, right? That one game lead the Red Sox have on the Detroit Tigers is unbelievably important. The only way the Red Sox are going to be able to figure out a way to create a tiebreaker situation against the Detroit Tigers is if they end up sweeping them in the last 3 games of the season. And to be honest with you, doesn't really do anything to their tiebreaking, right? Because at the end of the day, you would be 3 games up on the Detroit Tigers. There's really no way for the Red Sox to enter a tiebreaker situation here. And that's a little bit scary, right? If the Detroit Tigers come in and they take 2 out of 3 games from the Red Sox and your standings are exactly what they are right now, which is a game above, you end up in that third wild card spot. So what you're looking at here is not only Detroit Tigers collapse, the Cleveland Guardians come up, whichever one you want to focus on here, totally changed the landscape of the wild card. It totally changed specifically the Red Sox landscape of the wild card, because now they have to figure out a way to beat the Detroit Tigers and put themselves in a position for this second wild card spot. Now, to be fair, the Red Sox are in total control of their destiny here. If the Red Sox come out and they end up somehow sweeping the Toronto Blue Jays in this series, they've essentially locked up this second wild card spot, right? Because if the Detroit Tigers lose one more game, the Red Sox will be 2 games ahead of them, which means the only way the Detroit Tigers would end up in that second wild card spot is if the Red Sox get swept at home at Fenway. There's the positive here, right? If the Red Sox can just continue to play winning baseball, the Red Sox are going to push themselves into that second wild card spot. But again, things get hairy, right? Things get crazy, and I have a feeling that this season is going to come down to this last series, specifically with their standings in the wild card, not so much whether or not they make the postseason. And speaking of whether or not they make the postseason, we have some more news that we got to go over here that happened last night that changes the Red Sox playoff picture. Because the other thing that happened last night is that the Houston Astros lost their first game against the Oakland Athletics. Side notes, the Oakland Athletics are going to be pretty good next year, aren't they? If they can find a way to get legitimate pitching, they have a ton of talent on this offense. Totally besides the point, though. But because the Houston Astros lost this game, they now put themselves 2 games behind the Boston Red Sox. And this is really, really good because just like we mentioned, the Astros and the Red Sox have the tiebreaker. So essentially, not only are they 2 games behind the Red Sox, they're really 3 games behind the Red Sox. So we're talking about just simply Red Sox getting into the postseason. This is absolutely fantastic news. 3 games ahead with 5 games left to play is going to be pretty monumental, because even if the Red Sox go 0-5 the rest of the way, and I can't believe I just said those words out loud, for the love of God, Corbin, knock on as much wood as humanly possible here. Make sure that does not happen. That would be unbelievably terrible. But even if that does end up happening, the Houston Astros would still have to have a winning record the rest of the way. Now, the Astros are 5-5 in their last 5 games, but they've lost 4 games in a row. And to put the Red Sox out of a postseason spot, essentially what the Houston Astros would have to do is they'd have to go 3-2 the rest of the way. If the Red Sox are able to manage a way to win just one of these last 5 games and go 1-4, the Astros would have to go 4 4-1 for the Red Sox to be eliminated. If the Red Sox simply go 2-3 the rest of the way here and end up at that 500 we were talking about coming in to this 6-game stretch, the Houston Astros would have to go a perfect 5-0 to beat out the Boston Red Sox. And if the Red Sox are able to win 3 of their next 5 and go 3-2 over this stretch, 4-2 over these last 6 games, the Red Sox would guarantee themselves a spot in the playoffs. Obviously, right now, I think everyone should be sitting here with the goal of the Red Sox to finish with that second wildcard spot. It feels physically impossible for the Red Sox to beat out the New York Yankees or potentially the Toronto Blue Jays, however that ends up by the end of the year. But that second wildcard spot is absolutely still in reach. However, obviously, I think a lot of us, especially with the way that this month has gone, have sat here and said, just get it, right? Figure out a way to make sure that you are in the postseason, and we'll figure out exactly how the matchups work from there. This is a really big step in getting towards that postseason. The Red Sox are now up to close to a 95% chance of making the playoffs. That is unbelievably massive, right? Because a week ago, or even a few games ago, coming into the Tampa Bay series, the Red Sox were down to about an 80% chance of making the postseason. Because of this loss to the Houston Astros, the Red Sox have really put themselves in a good position to, at the bare minimum, make the playoffs. And this is exactly what we were talking about, right? This entire season is going to come down to whether or not the Red Sox can actually win baseball games, which is fantastic, right? You don't want to be the team like the Houston Astros right now who are relying on other teams losing. You want to be the team that's in control of your own destiny. If you win these games, you end up in a postseason spot. And with this loss last night from the Houston Astros, you've done exactly that. And to me, that's absolutely fantastic. Honestly, kind of the only bad news that we have from last night was that the Yankees also won and the Blue Jays lost. Because for the Red Sox, what that means is, again, the same situation that the Astros are in right now, it's essentially the same situation that the Red Sox are in. They have to find a way to tie the Yankees to get that top wild card spot. The Yankees have an unbelievable cakewalk type schedule the rest of the way. The Red Sox would have to essentially be perfect in order to get that top wild card spot. But with the Yankees winning and the Blue Jays losing, this also means that there is a potential that the Yankees end up winning this division, which would have the Red Sox going back to Toronto for a 3-game series than it would for the Bronx. And again, like I said earlier in this video, I'm much more comfortable in a situation where the Red Sox are going into New York than I am with them going basically anywhere else, right? If they go to Seattle, I'm a little worried about it. If they go to Cleveland, I'm terrified. If they go to Toronto, I'm a little bit more worried, although I'm not totally worried about it. So you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, this isn't exactly fantastic, but I would say the rest of everything that we talked about in this video is overwhelmingly positive, right? It's going to make things a bit more stressful, especially with the Tigers now being that third wild card spot and the Red Sox having to play them to finish out their season. But we talked about this with the Astros. Put your own destiny in your own hands. I don't know how much more destiny in your own hands it can get, right? Look, every single game from here on out is going to feel like it monumentally changes the Red Sox outlook. It feels like, honestly, at this point, we're going to be making one of these videos every single day until the end of the season, right? Because that's just simply how impactful these last 5 games are going to be. The entirety of this 162-game season is coming down to the final week, and it's a ton of fun, but it's unbelievably stressful. Right now, especially with the Houston Astros losing, I would say we're in the positive, but that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think? What do you think about what's going on here? Is it a little bit confusing? Because it feels a little bit confusing when I'm saying it to you right now, but what do you think? Are you comfortable with where the Red Sox are at? Are you uncomfortable with where the Red Sox are at? What do you think this playoff picture ends up looking like? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton. Best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. I will see you tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Red Seat Radio to watch one of the biggest games of the year, and as always, in the red seats.